What's up to the Cowboy Nation, the Cowboy community, the Cowboy universe? Right now, we are facing upheaval. We are catching it from all different directions. We are catching it from opposing fans. We are catching it from our fans. Our universe is turned upside down. We have just lost the first round of the playoffs. That's right. We have lost the first round of the playoffs. This has got to be an alternate universe, an alternate reality. This has got to be a bad dream, but unfortunately it is the truth. And chaos has besieged the Cowboy Nation. We are a nation at odds with each other. As I look on social media, it seems as though there are a small percentage of Dallas Cowboy fans who currently back our current leader-in-chief on the field, our general, Dak Prescott. That's 30%. My estimation on what I read on Facebook and on YouTube comments. 70% say, ship Dak out of town, let's start all over, let's get a QB in the draft. So, that train of thought is kind of, I guess, emboldened by the talk of the past quarterback, Troy Aikman. And in comparison to Troy Aikman, Dak Prescott, for most of the Dallas Cowboys fans, falls short. But I want to present to you, my fellow Cowboy family, Cowboy citizens, that Dak Prescott, by the numbers, in comparison with four other notable quarterbacks, which include Troy Aikman, is actually statistically superior to all of the notable quarterbacks in Cowboy history. So, the quarterbacks of this conversation are Rodger Staubach, Danny White, Troy Aikman, Tony Romo, and Dak Prescott. I should have added Don Meredith. But those are the five quarterbacks statistically I'll be browsing over, showing their accolades, and I want to put you in the position of being a head coach, a general manager, and an owner, and you're looking at these five quarterbacks in the first 3 full seasons of their career, and the pressure is on you to choose who you think would be the franchise quarterback moving forward that you put your 100% trust in and faith as you go by the numbers. So let's start this. Let's start with Rodger Staubach. Let's get the numbers on Rodger Staubach. Now, we're going by 16 games a season for 3 seasons. So obviously Rodger Staubach only played 13, 14, and 14 games for the first 3 seasons. So what we're going to do is move the numbers to accommodate the deficiency. So in these numbers, Rodger Staubach will have played 16, 16, and 16 games for the first 3 full seasons of his career to put him on par with the calculations of the other 2 quarterbacks, Tony Romo and Dak Prescott. Troy Aikman will also, his numbers will also be tutored to fit into the totality of Tony Romo and Dak Prescott. So Let's do it. Rodger Staubach. He played 41 games in his 3 seasons in which were chosen. The earliest 3 seasons in which were chosen, he played 41 games. We're going to move his 41 games to 48 games, using his average of 41 games to get to 48 games. So I'm going to give you his 41 game average and then what we did to move it forward. So in 41 games, Rodger Staubach had 55 TDs and 34 interceptions in 41 games. But we'll move him up to 48 games for the sake of what this is all about. So his 55 TDs becomes 64 TDs. His 34 INTs become 39 INTs. So of the 64 TDs that Rodger Staubach has accumulated in those 3 initial seasons beginning his career, 6 of them are rushing TDs. So the TDs and the passing TDs are combined. So he has 64 TDs, 39 INTs. Let's move on to Danny White. And Danny White has completed in 1980, 81, and 83, 16 games, 15 games, 16 games. So in order to move his 15 games up to 16 games, we took his average and gave him 1 extra TD. So he went from 79 TDs to 85 total TDs. He had 5 rushing touchdowns. So his 70, or rather his 80 thrown TDs plus his 5 rushing TDs gave him 85 TDs and 61 interceptions. Moving forward, we have Troy Aikman. Troy Aikman in 89, 90, and 91 completed 11 games, 15 games, and 12 games. So we're going to have to take those averages and move him up to 16, 16, and 16 games. So his actual 31 games, he had 33 TDs, 46 INTs. But we moved him up to complete 16 games on a total. So of those 16, 16, and 16 games, he has 51 TDs, 71 INTs. Of those 51 TDs that he had on total, 2 of them were rushing touchdowns. Let's move on to Tony Romo. Tony Romo, 06, 07, 08. 16, 16, and 16, he completed those games. No need to add to his total. So his total is 83 TDs, 46 INTs. 2 of those 83 TDs are rushing. And then we move on to Dak Prescott. 16, 16, and 16 in the years 16, 17, and 18. He has a complete 48 games in those 3 years. No need to average him upward. So he has a total of 85 TDs with an impressive, 13, 25. So 25 of his TDs are rushing. Yeah, that looks right. And You weigh that against 26 INTs. So clearly, Dak Prescott is the most efficient quarterback from the standpoint of TDs to interceptions that the Dallas Cowboys franchise has ever had. Dak Prescott is the only quarterback within those first 3 years to win Rookie of the Year, NFL Rookie of the Year. Dak Prescott has the lowest amount of interceptions, the highest amount of touchdowns thrown, and this flies in the face of what most fans say about Dak Prescott, that he cannot read defenses, he holds on to the ball too long, he is not accurate, but his accuracy is the highest of all the Dallas Cowboy, all the notable Cowboys in Dallas's history. So how does a quarterback be as inaccurate, as described as inaccurate as Dak Prescott, but he has the highest completion percentage? He has the least amount of interceptions, INTs, than all other quarterbacks. And he's on pace to have more touchdowns than the current leader, which is Tony Romo. Something is not as it seems. As the Cowboys, the 70% of the Cowboys how they figure and look at Dak Prescott is inaccurate. How did it get so distorted? How has the media manipulated the Cowboys fan base? Because Dak Prescott, by the numbers, if you research it, is the most elite of the elite in the Cowboys' history of quarterbacks. So the discussion moving forward after the playoff loss to the 49ers in the wild card playoffs is Dak Prescott isn't the problem. He's the answer, but he's not the sole answer. And I'll give you a statistical comparison of Dak Prescott's recent playoff loss in the divisional wildcard game compared to Troy Aikman's loss in the divisional wildcard game. And in that, let's see these numbers here. Let's compare the numbers. Back in 1999, Troy Aikman against the Arizona Cardinals attempted 49 passes and made 22 completions for a percentage of 44.9 while throwing for 191 yards. Dak Prescott, also defeated in the wild card playoffs, had 43 attempts compared to Troy Aikman's 49, had 23 completions compared to Troy Aikman's 22, had a 53.5 completion percentage compared to Troy Aikman's 44.9. Dak Prescott threw for 254 yards compared to Troy Aikman's 191 yards. Dak Prescott threw for 1 TD compared to Troy Aikman's 1 TD. Dak Prescott threw for 1 interception compared to Troy Aikman's 3 interceptions. Dak Prescott was sacked 5 times compared to Troy Aikman's being sacked 4 times. Dak Prescott fumbled 1 time compared to Troy Aikman fumbling 1 time. The QBR rating for Dak Prescott was 74.2. The QBR rating for Troy Aikman was 37. The main target or number one receiver for Troy Aikman was Michael Irvin. He had 4 receptions off of 10 targets for 32 yards. CeeDee Lamb had 5 targets, I believe 1 catch for 27 yards. 0 TDs. Michael Irvin, 0 TDs. So that kind of flies in the face of what Troy Aikman was saying. Hey, it didn't look any different for Michael Irvin than it did for CeeDee Lamb. Now let's go with Emmitt Smith. Emmitt Smith had 16 carries for 74 yards, 4.6 yards a carry. That beats out Zeke. I believe Zeke only had like 27 yards. I mean, it wasn't even notable for me to even compare Emmitt and Zeke. Even though Emmitt wasn't stellar, he had only 74 yards, but Zeke only had like maybe 27 or 30 yards at the end of the day. So, what we draw from this is that nostalgia, reminiscing about the days past and the days gone, the longer it stays in the back, the more distorted it becomes when you bring it to the future. Troy Aikman was no better than Dak Prescott in his wild card loss. His numbers were even worse than Dak Prescott's. Troy Aikman's first 3 years in comparison to Dak Prescott fail in comparison. The only difference between Dak Prescott's success and Troy Aikman's success is that Troy Aikman had a better team. If you put Dak Prescott in the same position as Troy Aikman, you win the same games, you win the same amount of Super Bowls, you might even win 4. If you put Tony Romo in Troy Aikman's position, you win 3 Super Bowls and you probably win 4. Because when Troy Aikman played the San Francisco 49ers and lost, his numbers were worse than Dak Prescott's. So Troy Aikman isn't head and shoulders above Dak Prescott or even above Romo. But the subject of the matter is Dak Prescott. And Troy Aikman does not eclipse Dak Prescott as far as the raw numbers and data shows. Now, in the situations in which Troy Aikman was placed in at that exact moment, he made whatever the right decision was for him being placed in that right decision or right moment. Dak Prescott does not have the same tools arsenal that Troy Aikman that was aligned with Troy Aikman for his eventual success. Dak Prescott's defense is not ranked number 1, not ranked number 5, like what Troy Aikman enjoyed during his reign at the height of his career. It takes a team effort to get to or to be placed in that situation to then thrive and maximize off the talent that is on the field. Shout outs to Mike McCarthy, who's done a spectacular job going from 6-10 to 12-5, from coming in and finishing the first season with historically the worst Dallas defense in the franchise's history to having two defensive players that could have arguably won Defensive Player of the Year in Micah Parsons and Diggs. So something had to have happened right, or there has to be a cause for the success of the Dallas Cowboys. You can't just say, oh, it had nothing to do with Jerry Jones. Oh, it had nothing to do with Will McClay. Or it had nothing to do with Stephen Jones. It had nothing to do with McCarthy. Had nothing to do with Moore. Had a little bit to do with Quinn. And has nothing to do with Prescott or Elliott or any of those players. So, who's responsible for the Dallas Cowboys going 12-5? In the comment section, let me know who is responsible for the Dallas Cowboys going 12-5. Is it one individual that is responsible for the Dallas Cowboys going 12-5, finishing their season at 12-5? Is it a combination of people or of units or of ownership that is responsible for the Dallas Cowboys going 12-5? And the odds-on favorite are that the Dallas Cowboys will win the NFC East next year. The Washington, I'm about to say red, but anyway, the Washington football team is dysfunctional. The New York Giants are abysmal. The Philadelphia Eagles are the only other team with an identity, but it is not a strong identity. The Dallas Cowboys will win the NFC East next season and once again will be in the playoffs. Everyone that returns from this season to next season will be that much smarter and will be better prepared for the moment at hand. The Dallas Cowboys that go into the next season will not only look to win their division, but once again try for that number 1 seed. So let's see. What do we have? Tom Brady being a year older. Aaron Rodgers being a year older. Kyler Murray. Okay, you see how he performed in the playoffs. So maybe he's more frazzled and rattled than Dak Prescott. Jimmy Garoppolo might not even survive next season to be the 49ers starting QB. So look around the landscape. Who else do you have? The Rams. So, as it looks to be a battle between the Dallas Cowboys and the Los Angeles Rams for that number 1 spot. That's how I see it. Okay. In the comment section, there are a lot of people who are smarter than me about this football. And I welcome your comments. Even if they agree or disagree, even if they disagree, it is something in where I can look at and learn from the intelligent people who make up the Cowboys universe. All right. So like, comment, subscribe, and I'm going to be right back at y'all with some more Cowboy action. It's ugly, and I'm out.